That we're going to jump to our mentoring round where we'll ask you several quick questions intended to inform and inspire future finance leaders. We want you to think back, and it was probably back at Vermetric, or the first time you stepped into the CFO role, and you had the responsibilities really come down on you, and you wish someone had told you this, or maybe you could go back in time and just give this piece of advice to yourself, knowing who you were then. What you didn't know, what you knew. What is it that you would tell yourself?
Look, if I were to go back as a CFO, early days, I'd say, Frank, get deep in the product. Understand how your customers use this. Understand their product journey, because that'll inform yours. And out of that comes all your investment decisions, everything you're going to do to go to market. I think, again, I said earlier, Jack, too many CFOs in the early days are journalists. They focus on results. Here's what we did. And what really matters is, great, we did this, but what's, again, seeing around corners. Where's the market headed? What are we doing? If I could go back and talk to myself, I'd say you need to understand to be predictive. Get to know the product, understand the marketplace, and be predictive. Get the tools and measurements you need to be able to do that. That's number one. Number two, I learned this at Vermetric because I was deeply involved for the first time in fundraising. But, oftentimes you'll hear it's the CEO's job to make sure the company never runs out of money. Actually, it's the CFO's job. So that's the other thing, is create the relationships outside of the existing syndicate that will allow you to bring to bear capital as needed for the eventuality that something will happen. Something's going to go wrong. It's always twice as hard as you thought. It's going to take twice as long as you thought. And so those kind of real life stories that you've lived over time, to go back and say, build the kind of banking and capital relationships outside of the syndicate, because from a shareholder perspective, the syndicate will give you money all day long. It's just, at what value. So build those relationships, understand how and why your customers buy, understand how your information helps you make better decisions within that context. I think that begins to put finance at the tip of the spear in terms of the go-to-market motion, and also as the steward of capital, where you go, hey, I'm not going to wait for the CEO to kind of say we have to raise money. We're going to be looking at, hey, we're going to, based on things taking twice as long and be twice as hard, here's what I think. And oh, by the way, here's a group of folks that may help us in that endeavor. Those are two things I would think. The other thing that's interesting, and this is one I share, Jack, with my students constantly, I had the privilege at Price Waterhouse of just dealing with some amazing people. I guess, it's a fantastic firm. And back then I was, I networked with the partners that I was working for. I didn't realize the people I was rubbing shoulders with. I'll give you an example. I remember having dinner. I'm a punk kid, right? I'm out of school. What do I know, right? I'm 1 year out. And TD Bank is one of my customers, and I get invited to the year-end dinner, and sitting two people away from me is the CEO of Toronto Dominion Bank. I mean, that's rarefied air. I just didn't know it back then, right? And so the idea of, man, you got to rub shoulders with some people that were really incredible, industry influencers and luminaries and really titans. And realizing, shake that hand, get to know that person, just keep in touch every once in a while. Back then it was Lotus Notes, so it wasn't as elegant as it was today. But I think that recognize the network that you're interacting with and the power of that network over time becomes really popular. Not to drive your career, but just to learn. I mean, I'm having dinner next to a guy that's been running, a highly regulated top 20 global bank, and I'm a year out of school. You know what I mean? Like, that just doesn't happen. So I think going back and saying, when you're given those opportunities, make the most of them, right? In a humble way. Don't be cocky, but hey, I'm on the team. It's been great to know you, and and then ping that person. Ever since then, over the years, I've really gone out of my way to really reach out to folks I've worked with in the past. But in those early years, I wish I had thought of that, right? And I really hadn't.
And at the same time, you go back to the classroom. You like to teach. What does that reveal about us, that you spend this time in the classroom as well over the years?
Jack, I'm going to say something. It's not intended to be pejorative. So I'm not maligning schools. But what I found in education was I could have read the book at home and taken the test, right? And what happened years ago is I got the opportunity to teach, and I realized what people are really hungry for. It's the phrase I used earlier. Hey, I laid a minefield and rolled around in it. Don't do it, right? And so here's the bad stuff, or here's the good stuff, and here's the real world experience element to it. And so what I bring to Santa Clara is really a focus on Silicon Valley, obviously, and on the new technologies and emerging trends and so forth, but also here's what's actually happening in the world today. It's not in your textbook yet because the textbook's 2 years behind, but here's how we do deals. Here's what matters. Here's all of a sudden why everybody's gone from growth at all costs to profitability and growth. Those things don't get enough airtime when you're teaching class. So what led me to it is I realized I got a chance to speak to it, and I did my first quarter, and I really focused almost the entire quarter on the book says this and that's important, but here's what I'm facing, and that was very well received. And then I just stuck. I mean, it's just it's great to get back. I tell you what the unintended blessing or upside of that is. Over the years, I've probably had the chance to hire 20 plus of my students in different functions. Many of them still work for me today. Many of them are at Arkose, where I've just brought them from other deals. And those are people that I met as students. They were going through their MBAs. And when they graduated, we had a chance to collaborate. And they're all exceptional executives and leaders in their own right. And now I learned from them as much as the other way around. But it's been the unintended consequence of that teaching is, again, back to networking, just interacting with some incredibly bright people that go on to do great things. And you've got that mutual shared connection experience that I've met in the classroom. So that's pretty cool. I enjoy that.
What is one thing most people don't know about you? Something out there? And I see some musical instruments on the wall. I don't know if it might be.
Let me tell you the musical instruments. So this is a test. I call this my wall of shame. These are all instruments I played in my life, just never well. All right. So when I was a kid, my mom insisted I play the piano. My mother, at that time, and I think she was right, in her mind, if you learn how to play piano or you learn music, you'd be good at math. And she was right, because ultimately it is math. The scales, the way we do things. So I played the piano all the way through from grade school on. When I got to middle school, in a complete act of rebellion, because my mom and dad said, you got to join the band. And I go, Pops, I can't imagine a worse fate than joining a band. If you're trying to be cool, you're going to put me in the band. And so they said, you're joining the band. And so I went to the band teacher and I said, hey, I don't want to be here. My parents are forcing me to. What's the instrument furthest away from a piano? And he goes, a trumpet. Well, obviously he needed a trumpet player, and I was too dumb to figure it out. So I played trumpet through middle school and high school. In high school, our trombone player quit, and because I had learned piano, I could read bass clef and treble clef. Trombone's a bass clef instrument. So, and I had the embouchure from the trumpet. They said, congratulations, you're the new trombone player. And a guitar is self-taught. And then here's a really cool one. This one's interesting. So again, back to that mentoring group I do. Last Christmas, they sent me a present. They sent me a banjo. We've been talking about difficulty learning instruments. And so the team got together. There's like 15 of them. And they bought me this banjo. And they said, learn to play the banjo. And that is brutal. I mean, I'm trying, but it's brutal. So that's the hall. Really, that's the hall of, or the wall of shame. Over on the left, you may be able to see it over my left shoulder, is all my Spartan races. Another thing about me, my wife and I run Spartan races. I run it with our companies as well. I've done 12 of them. Our 13th is coming up November 5th, so I really like to be active. But here's the thing I'm most proud of. I am a young granddad. My 3 kids are all grown. They're all thriving in their careers, and they all have kids. And so pride and joy is hanging with those little guys. And that's it. That's the thing that I'm most proud of, is just time with those guys.
What about a book selection for us? Doesn't have to be a business book. Might be something you escape with. Anything?
I'll give you two books, really 3 books that are phenomenal. So I'm reading The Bomber Mafia by Malcolm Gladwell right now. And, if you're a Gladwell fan, and, Gladwell's really good at things. We all know Outliers. We all know things like that. But The Bomber Mafia is this really interesting reflection on the kind of dichotomy in the bombing teams in World War II, from the carpet bombers to the precision bombers, and how the American philosophy was, we're going to build technology and instruments for precision bombing, so we eliminate, collateral and focus on infrastructure, versus in World War II, there was just this penchant for bomb everything because you'll eventually hit something. And so that's been a really interesting book, because it reflects on the kind of the confluence of technology and how it was used, and then things they didn't understand. Like, one of the things that's interesting in that book, Jack, is, they're trying to get this instrument down. The bomber would lie flat and would look down, and this technology was supposed to predict when to drop the bombs. They didn't know about jet streams back then. And so these planes are flying 200 knots faster than they thought, and they missed everything. So that's interesting. It's a departure for Gladwell from his typical stuff. That's really interesting. Another great book, it's called Race to the Moon. Again, I told you I'm a space nut. I love all things space, but it's really the history of the American space program from the end of World War II all the way up through the end of the Apollo missions. And that's a fantastic book in the sense that it chronicles the space program, but it also tells you the pragmatism. I mean, we took a bunch of really bad people from World War II and made them rocket scientists and built the program on that. It really dives into some of the human flaws of our astronauts and some of those things happen there. So that's a really good book. And then one that I recommend that's really disturbing, actually. Netflix has just done a series on it, but it's disturbing because of the outcome. It's called Ordinary Men. And Ordinary Men is the story of a German police battalion that's deployed to Poland as MPs ostensibly, and becomes one of the most vile, killing machines that the SS had. And the author goes through, how did these guys that were plumbers, carpenters, bakers, 1 week, a month later, become these prolific killing machines? So it's disturbing. It's disturbing in terms of the atrocities committed, but it asks a very interesting question. When given the chance to do right, and they were, by the way, why didn't anybody take it? And it's a really interesting book on just psychology. Netflix has put out a series on it that's just, riveting.
No.
But I recommend that. Very, very interesting. By the way, none of those to do with business. Just really interesting.
No, but some provocative thinking there. So thank you for those. We are up to our final question, where we're going to ask you to look forward finally. We want to know what your priorities are as a CFO over the next 12 months. What are the priorities?
Number one is succession. I'm at a point, I've been blessed with a lot of great success over the years. I've got a fantastic team. My job today is to make sure that, when my time comes to depart, there's absolutely no impact on this business. And so I've got some great partners across the various functions that I oversee and over which I preside, that my job is to mentor them up. Everything from, better communication and more executive presence and more domain expertise and just friendships in general. So number one, as I look forward, is getting that succession to the place where, I'm imparting on them, here's what not to do, and then they can figure out the right things to do, helping them with that. Number two, guiding our company into an unbelievably cool future. I mean, I think if you begin to think of one of the impacts of AI is the ability to interface with the digital world without a visual interface. And in that context, solving those two questions I talked about, is Frank really Frank and is Frank behaving normally in the context of this transaction? Doing that in a way that's gonna use tomorrow's challenges, tomorrow's technologies. Imagine this world, and we're starting to see it, Jack, but the only thing that's not spoofable is an unknown future command, right? So if you and I had never met, and you're about to send a wire through B of A to Venezuela, and we go, definitely the right guy, oh my gosh, this is going to Venezuela, this is weird. And I were to say to you as a bank, I obviously can't see you, but I were to say to you, I know your device, your connected devices in your home. If this is really you, turn off your microphone. That's pretty powerful. I mean, it's just so the future of how do you do authentication, identity resolution, and challenges in a non-visual world in a way that reduces friction and absolutely adds an element of authenticity. Only that mic could be at your house, and nobody would know I'd give you that command, so it's very hard to spoof. I think that's really cool. And then obviously the last thing, as I think about the future, is continue to pour into the next generation of leaders to get them spun up as they come out of these programs, not just with head knowledge, but with operational know-how, right? Here's, as I said, here's the minefield not to lay, and if you do lay it, don't roll around in it, right? It's okay to pivot. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to reevaluate and be agile in your thinking. Don't auger into something just because you started it. So that teaching side to me is really, I think, is, if I were to look at what do I really want to focus on in terms of developing next generation leaders, that's it. Just really getting that team spun up.
Frank Teruel, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leader.